Welcome to The Chat. This is a podcast from the team at Glasgow City Mission, the first and the granddaddy of the global city mission movement. I'm Charles Maasz, proud to be CEO at this time. This series is intended as a resource and a point of connection for anybody interested in the work that goes on at Glasgow City Mission. I want to speak to people whose passion, vocation, career, faith journey or life aligns with an aspect of the work and the rhythm of what we do. Many will have a faith perspective, some will not. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Please check out our website, our social media platforms. Click like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and add us to your favorites. Feedback is welcome, but please keep it clean, keep it civil. Thank you. I'm recording. There we go. So, how you doing, Pete? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I wonder if it'd be all right if you just introduce yourself.
It's nice to be with you.
Good.
Or with you via Zoom.
Via Zoom. It's the way it is. In your loft.
Sure. Oh, that's in my loft. Yep. You can see the glorious wood paneling, and hopefully none of the candles will alight the whole house and burn it down. So fingers crossed. But it smells great.
Yeah, I bet.
So, a bit about me. What would I say? Oh, I'd say I live in Glasgow, northeast, married, and got 2 kids, and they're nice. I like them.
Good.
Which is good. And I do. I'm really passionate about worship. I'm passionate about Scottish worship and what that would look like. And so in that, I really enjoy worship leading, and I enjoy writing worship music and seeing what that would look like, and kind of reading into that, and just kind of trying to ask God the question, what would you have for your church in Scotland, and how can I be a part of that, and what can I do to lead people in worship of you? And so wow. I suppose that would be my stall.
You set your stall out. Good. So. Well, of course, now, so the point of these talks, really, these conversations, is that my feeling is, rightly or wrongly, that people don't necessarily know just the breadth of the things that Glasgow City Mission get up to. And I want to talk to people whose vocations and passions align with a facet of something we do. And as a Christian organization, as a faith-based organization in the city, worship is a key feature of what we do daily. The teams do it. We do it at gatherings and events. And we have music room, we have people that are into DJing, we have music teachers that come in and things like that. And of course, you align with us in another way, which is that you use our space. So what's the use of our space? Tell us what you do at the Glasgow City Mission when you come in.
Yeah, so we've been involved with kind of praying over Glasgow for different groups and things, but especially with Mahaba, or Mahaba. Whichever way you would want to pronounce that, but Mahaba Baba. What's the candy? Hubba Bubba? Is that
Hubba Bubba.
Yeah. So so pre-lockdown fun. We were certainly kind of about once a month, kind of in, and you very graciously, have allowed us to kind of use your space and just be a part of praying for the city and things. So
that's fantastic. Who's that with?
So that's with a kind of Mahaba network that's part of the UK. So my wife Hannah and I and another couple have been kind of leading that with kind of a kind of faithful group for quite a few years now. But it's been going quite a long time since kind of Mitcham was there, and Mitcham and Rosie, and we're doing that. And so that's been a great thing to be a part of. And so I really believe that regular prayer and intercession and worship are kind of some of the things that we can connect with God's heart, and we can really come beside Jesus, I think, and knowing that Jesus is our great intercessor, and that he's our great worship leader and high priest, and like we just get to join with him. And so I do quite a bit of the worship stuff for that, and really enjoy intercession and worship and the link between the two, and kind of all those passages in Revelation, and the kind of ways that we get to minister to Jesus, and we get to draw close to him, and we get to hopefully see a little bit of what is on his heart and what he's doing as he's interceding at the right hand of the Father. And so I like that link.
Yeah, I'm feeling that you've got a link there that I'd quite like to explore, because what most people would think of in terms of worship and access through worship is a direction that flows in the opposite way than the one you just described. You've just described that we offer our worship that way, but a lot of people, when they're worshiping, are looking to draw down this way. And for anybody who's listening, I just made a hand gesture which went from top to bottom. Yeah, kind of visual thing missing if you're only listening to the audio. But it's fair to say, isn't it? A lot of people, when they're engaging with the act of, or the art or the discipline of worship, when especially in its sung or musical forms, it's a relationship which you forget that actually you're offering something of value, perhaps, to him.
Yeah, I think there's a. I mean, I think Jesus is the fascinating subject of our worship. You know, our object, just like who we are worshipping. But he also is the one that has given us a really. There's the different aspects of. Yeah, we come in different traditions, have it different ways, obviously, but we come to worship the King. You know, the King of Kings, but also we come to worship God, and he is our brother as well, and he's our friend, and he's our savior, and he is all these, you know, he is our all in all. He is all these things. He's the firstborn. He's the firstborn over all creation. He's the supremacy. And so there's this thing that I think Jesus gives this like invitation, you know, when he teaches us how to pray and he teaches us how to worship our Father. You know, there's a kind of collective thing where the Father is Jesus's Father, and so he worships, you know, and he's our high priest, you know, with a kind of high priestly prayer before he ascends, and he kind of shows us how we get to minister to God, and yet he also wants to come down, and when two or more are gathered, you know, I am in your midst, and he wants to come and minister to us as well. So I mean, I don't feel like I fully understand that, and I don't think we ever will, you know, but I just love that intimacy that he wants to be, you know, he is the Lion, the Lamb, he is the ascended one, and he's the one who's transcendent and immanent, and all those kind of not juxtapositions, but kind of things that hold tension there, that we get to both like praise him and adore him, and also we expect to hear from him in humility as well, you know, when we draw close to him as well.
I was glad you used the word intimacy, because I was feeling that there was something deep about the intimacy that you had really gripped onto. And it's interesting as well to me, because another conversation I'd had as a part of this series, in fact, possibly in the two preceding this one, there was this aspect of the unresolved tensions of both and of the immanent and the transcendent. But as long as you can live with the tension of that unresolved thing, that maybe that provides a pocket within which you can sit and find your groove in terms of worship or whatever, and access and find a language and a shape and a form that works.
I think we struggle to, or certainly I do, to kind of know where our place is. You know, that we're citizens of heaven, and yet we're here. You know, we're part of the bride of Christ, and you know, we eat cereal in the morning, and you know, have humdrum as well. You know, we're part of our Father has many rooms prepared for us, and yet, you know, I'm in my loft, you know. And I think, like in worship, you know, I think we find this tension as well, where something happens. You know, different denominations have different, you know, words for it, and certainly, you know, I think they probably all feel what God would say, but of this thing that when we're gathered, the Spirit moves, and something happens that I think we're all missing during kind of COVID stuff, but like, just something is different in the gathered when we're there together as a body than when we are, you know, in a crowd of, you know, of shoppers, or even at the football, or anything else. Like, there's something different about joining together and worshiping God, which His Spirit kind of moves and joins and ties us together as we worship Him, and so there's something kind of transcendent about that. Even though it can look like just the same Sunday, you know, the same room that we were in last Sunday, or the same, you know, place we were in on which. How do you feel that's a part of kind of GCM, and kind of, is that a theme that keeps popping? If that keeps popping up in all these podcasts, it's something that kind of you're engaging with, or?
Yeah, I think it's a feature of the spiritual landscape of the Christian expression that is finding more and more a place in the language of people, of a contentment to not have everything neatly sewn up, of not in all quarters, but for those that are really pushing the envelopes and really exploring the edges and really getting to grips with the reality of the human experience rather than the ideological things of preaching to the gallery. When you've got to deal with people at the sharp end, at the rough end, you've got to, it's not neat, it's not tidy, it's a bit messy. And it's very important that, I suppose it is a part of the language of Glasgow City Mission. And it's interesting to hear you say it. I've actually lost you, frozen. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you great. Yeah, I'm a bit cold, but no, fine.
Look, I don't want you to get cold.
Right.
So if you do get cold, right? Sure. If you get cold, get a jumper. We can pause this. It's not an issue.
I was joking. It was a bad frozen. Yeah. Frozen, and I went for that, but now I've tried to get both, and yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, you say we've known each other visually now for at least 4 minutes, and you're hitting me with these gags. And I'm once I've cottoned on to what your thing is, I should get with you. But sorry if I missed that frozen thing. I should have been quicker.
I just feel an affinity with anyone else. Anyone else with the glorious, Chrome. I think I just feel
Chrome
affinity
Dome
with, obviously. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're kin.
Chrome Dome.
Christian. Yeah, I shout at people sometimes out of my car.
Christian bold for Christ.
It just, the access is better, it's easier. I want to ask you how you came to move towards worship as the medium, for you to express yourself. How did that come to be?
Well, when I was very younger, I used to play percussion in church band. Obviously, the church band's name was Celebration Sound. So I suppose growing up, we had a really good culture of worship in our church, and I think I enjoyed engaging in worship. And I've enjoyed music, and I studied music at university and kind of played trombone and things, but I never had a particular love for music for its own sake, I would say. I think where I really become engaged is when it's about worship, and one of those ways for me where I can express, I feel like when you sing something, or it adds another layer of difference to it. And I suppose like we have our speaking voice and we have our singing voice, and there's something, I suppose I'm still thinking about the transcendent and immanent when we're kind of meditating on it there, but there's something about this voice, like a voice, and there's something quite like intimate about hearing someone's singing voice. And I think there's something about singing to God that is like a true another expression, let's say, of kind of intimacy with him. As we sing something to him, it seems to put some sort of meaning on it often. I think that when we say a thought, of Lord, I worship you, we can say that, and that is powerful. But then when we start to sing it, we can say, we can put a certain melody on it, or we can sing it a different way, with a different melody, and those words can come alive in a way that is kind of just different from speaking. And so I suppose I find an expression, or I find my voice and my expression of speaking to God most helpful in worship or expressing. And that's yes, I think that's roughly on what you were asking, maybe. But that's kind of how I found that. I think I've really enjoyed kind of worship and worshiping in church, and through finding just a need to lead worship in there was just nobody to lead it, and I was like, well, I'll pick up a guitar, and kind of bluffed my way through, and I feel I'm still a bluffer, but I'll try hard as a bluffer, and and So I myself with my guitar
Mm.
and piano, and then actually doing that in the presence of others, worship as an extension of I'm here to worship God. If you want to come and join, I want to find the easiest way that we can join together to worship Him,
Yeah.
and how I can serve you in that. So yeah.
So you went from being a drummer to a musician, is what you're saying to me?
Can you call a tambourine player a drummer? I think that's I think that's a
Percussion,
bit
is that what
grand.
you were doing? You were
Uh,
tapping the tambourine.
Percussion, yeah.
But in terms of your particular the genre that I think you're most well, it's well, if you do a YouTube search for you, for instance, is a lot featured around the Psalms, and why not, of course. But what led you to that kind of expression, to rework those words, to work with music and collections of voices, to use that particular body of divine work to express this thing in you that wants to do music?
I think primarily it's that I struggle to express myself often. I struggle to express a depth of what I'm feeling often. You know, as a man, I can sometimes struggle to find words or an emotion, or what is exactly is it I am feeling at this moment. I'm feeling something. What is it, God? And I think that the Psalms are so helpful for kids, or the other psalmists, and just reading it and going, oh, that is how I'm feeling. And I didn't know how to express that before. I didn't know what that was even, but now I've got some words I can kind of bring before you, God, and I can say, I'm feeling this. And also, it's okay that I'm saying this to you, God, because it's in your words. You are inviting me to sing these songs to you. And they are the Psalms, cover obviously, a huge range of different emotions, but often the ones that we kind of struggle with, or we don't really know how to express. I would think about like Psalm 13 or something that's well known to us, but how long, O Lord, will you forget me? These kind of words of how long will you hide your face from me? And then the resolving at the end, but I will trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation, and I will sing to the Lord, for he's been good to me. And so, there's a bit of a roller coaster in that psalm of, I'm feeling this low thing, but I'm resolved to trust in you, God. And if we didn't have those words in the Psalms, we might feel like, can I say that to God? Can I express that I'm a bit disappointed right now? Can I express that I'm a bit frustrated right now? Can I express that, come on, Lord, looking at my watch, this is just taking too long, what's happening? I've got a plan, get on board, but
Okay.
that's just, we can just say, what's happening, Lord? Where are you? What's happening? And that's just one emotion that we see in the Psalms.
Sure.
And so, if anything, as a guide, the Psalms for me just give this like full expression of emotion where you can say, oh, I'm feeling that. There's lament, there's joy, there's confusion, there's all these different emotions. And I suppose we can, kind of just almost pull up a psalm and say, oh, those are some, I can now express myself in I think that you can sing the words, or kind of an expression of it. And I suppose the other reason why singing makes things sticky in my mind.
Yeah.
They stick with you. Something I'm sure we can remember. It's often said, but we can remember a lot more songs than we can sermons. And coming out of I think it's 80% of people forget 80% of the sermon after 20 minutes after the service.
Yeah.
Or a statistic. If we have a song, and especially I think if we have a song of scripture, when things come that we're confused at or something, we can go, how long, O Lord, will you forget me? They're going to spring to sung them, and we can kind of remember the tune and sing along. So I suppose the Psalms I find are helpful. How do you find them? Is there a Psalm you kind of spring to, or
Well, firstly, I want to respond to that, because what I'm hearing is that the Psalms offer you the opportunity and the framework to stay theologically on point while still expressing the range of human emotions, and without falling foul of some fear of getting it wrong, which is and of course, then what you also do, you remain in the deep, deep, deep pools of profundity without falling into the "Jesus is my boyfriend" trap. So I'm guessing it's quite a nice place to be held, and plenty to explore as well, without going. Yeah.
I think the church is like, I think we've got so much theological training, we've got so much systematic theologies. We could look up, the right things that we're meant to think, or the right expressions, but I think that there's probably a time coming now when we can pull these different things together, and we can start saying, well, actually, systematic theology is great, and it is, and so like more conservative wings of the church would have like brilliant truths about God's words, and things that we can like really hold on to that are true, and maybe more charismatic sides of the church or evangelical might have more emotive language. And I think the Psalms is something where you see them kind of combined.
Okay, so this is common ground.
Yeah. And I think it's also one that we don't, in a kind of pastoral sense, it's one that we don't have disagreements over.
Yes.
We're not going to have the "Jesus is my boyfriend"
jibe,
or or just going and so we can kind of say, that interpretation, the way that we've said that Psalms, even though it's like my writing might be clunky or not like not the best ever, I don't know, I'm trying, but at least we can say the idea's right there, the idea, the thing that we're trying to get to, from all across Scotland, anyone in a church, we can say, yeah, we can hold on to these. And these are ones that we can hold from different traditions. And so, yeah, we can kind of stand together in this.
Yeah. And going back to something else you just said was about the difference, not only in the way in which we remember. I'm thinking of times when I've gone and done a ministry in a retirement home where there's a large proportion of people with senility or dementia of some sort. And I would intentionally carve a service there that played to old known patterns of the Lord's Prayer, or an old chorus that I knew was generationally appropriate. And it was incredible how a room would suddenly spark to life in perfect accord. And then as soon as it was done, they would revert back inside. But it was incredible how these deep childhood trainings and triggers brought forth this sort of almost muscle memory response from the brain, from the deep memory, based around patterns and rhythms in sounds, and hopefully brought back some sense of feeling as well. Although, of course, I couldn't know that, but I do believe it to be true.
I think we see that we like love videos where we see someone with dementia, they sing a song, or they have these like just memory from youth, and yeah, I think there was one that was going around recently, of a guy in an old folks home and stuff, and it's funny how they are the life songs.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. It's incredible. And I think one of the sad things about, we'll digress a bit, but it doesn't matter. One of the sad things about secularization, so my upbringing was, I thought, completely religion free. But the older I get, I look back and I see the pattern and the shape of the deep rooted Christian tradition in my schooling, in assembly, in the hymns, in learning the Lord's Prayer at assembly time. And they're things that I regularly recourse to, and have given me some form of a foundation in a sense, so that I'm at least a little bit, when I came to faith in my mid-20s, I was a little bit literate in the traditions of the faith, in the history of the church, etc. But just enough so that I can draw on these things. That there is no longer that commonality. So whoever's going to bring a service when I'm in one of these places, whoever's going to bring it, they're not going to easily have a common language, to draw these deep things out from people. which is a shame in a way.
I think it is. I think it's a shame in many ways, but I think I don't know. My experience from school was maybe slightly different in that, you know, I had like church that I went to where I had these songs, and then I went to school and I had what would we have? Colors of day wash into the night. You know, I have no idea what that song is about whatsoever.
No idea.
What's the one? The one that we just used to like. I was cold, I was naked, were you there? Like, why would you do that in primary school? Do you know what? It's just like, I mean, we just kill ourselves laughing. We just go,
naked.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But I've no idea what that song was about. And, you know, I'm not, there was good intentions there. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's flowery,
interesting.
And I'm not really, you know, against that. But I suppose there was this thing where what I'm interested in is where does our Scottish culture, you know, intersect with that? You know, what's going to be the stuff that's going to be like, oh, we can sing this because I'm Scottish and I kind of want to dip my toe in. I want to know something about God, or, you know, but I don't want to have to make this leap, you know, I don't know how to sing hymns because, you know.
Well, who does?
No, exactly. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to sing, you know, the latest, you know, from X contemporary church, which I like those songs, don't get me wrong, you know, but just like, where is that thing where, what would a song be? What would a liturgy, what would a thing like the Lord's Prayer look like? Where schools, where weddings, where funerals, where other things can say, we can pick this up and sing this. There's not a learning curve, there's not a course I need to go on or be at church for 2 years before I can sing it. How can I just like, I want to sing that and I want to sing it now. You know, I want to have that in my head. I want to have that in my heart. And I don't really know much about church. I don't even know if I want to go to church, somebody might be thinking, but I want to engage with something with God. You know, what would the easy wins be? And how could we do that? That would be both like joining together as a church from different denominations and join with our neighbours that might want to come to church, or anybody local. You know, how do we do that? So
sure, that's a big aspiration, if you don't mind me saying so. That's massive, because I've conducted a number of funerals and I've been at plenty of weddings, and one of the worst situations, the most embarrassing situations, is that nobody in there knows any of the even the most standard and well tried out hymns. They're either they're reluctant because they're not used to singing in company, which people would have been before. And or they're completely not acquainted with the melodies, where it's going to go, where the rise and falls are. And you find yourself, as the conducting person, the only person who is able. And if you're somebody like me who doesn't really feel like I'm the singer guy, that can be a killer. But you've got to do it because it's a big moment. It's a big occasion. So for you to posit the idea right now that it would be nice to create a shared hymnary, if you like, of contemporary Scottish expression of these deep words, and bring together in that common space, that common ground, find a way of expressing it in a way that everybody could get and use. That was a wonderful aim there.
So I feel like we've been part of a church plant in kind of northeast Glasgow for about 5 years now. And,
who's that? Let's give him a shout out in case anyone ever listens to this.
Yeah, so it was Wallaswell Community Fellowship. So we've been a part of that for about 5 years, which is really good. And we're now we're kind of planning on moving abroad, and so we're just kind of taking a sabbatical from there because we've just been kind of in leadership and things there for about 5 years. So but it's I mean, so being a part of a plant like that where a baptism is a good example.
Yeah.
You know, somebody says, you know, and well intentioned, don't get me wrong, you know, says, I'd like my child dunked, you know, and so, you know, you've got maybe 10, 15 people, you know, that are a part of the congregation, and then you get 70 people coming in, who are not regular, and you can tell the difference in the style. As
Oh
in,
yeah,
they're looking amazing,
sometimes
we're there in jeans and a t-shirt, and just like there's lots of there's about like that. There would be 30 awkward blokes in a room, being like, I do not want to be here. But I'm dressed
for court, and I'm here for a baptism.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just like I'm just like the maybe like they'd like the family and stuff, but they're just like maybe the church thing is just like either I don't know about this church stuff, what am I expected to do, or just I just don't want to be. What was the point, and stuff. So I suppose there's like a certain atmosphere, and so my litmus test maybe, our thing would be, could we have a song that kind of marrying all these things together? Could we have one that would be well known, that would be a voice that we can say, that's kind of in our own Scottish voice, or kind of British voice or something, that sounds like the words that we'd use? Is it based around something of scripture? Mm-hmm. Like a verse or something that we can do, and can we sing it? Mm-hmm. And so they're the situations where I'm like, well, how could we do that, and how could it be sincere, and not like some sort of weird, like, we're gonna do this to, I don't know, Twinkle Twinkle, or sorry, but something that is like Scottish and is like would connect with us, and we could say, oh, I kind of know this song, but like I can sing this, and I'm singing it. It's not just I'm doing an impression of someone singing it. Mm-hmm. I'm in the room right now singing it. So, like an example we might that we've done certainly is like taking like Loch Lomond.
Yeah.
And so we'd used that to like Proverbs 3, and I just happen to have a guitar here.
Just happened to have a guitar. It's not in tune.
But something like just about, we'll hope just about, but singing like something like, and so we trust in the Lord and we give him our hearts, leaning not on our own understanding, and for all of our days we'll submit our plans to God, so then he will surely make all our paths straight. So something like that, where it's just like, I know the tune.
Yeah.
You can kind of just go, so we, and people will kind of launch into it.
Sure.
And hopefully that's something that they'd be able to sing along by the second chorus.
Yeah.
And join in, and then maybe afterwards there'd be something that'd be like, it'd be sticky.
Yeah.
And it's not just a thing to try and like hook people who are not wanting to go to church, but rather just saying like,
no, it offers them
Jesus
a crutch. It offers them a platform or a base from which to work and actually not feel quite so self-consciously awkward and out of things as they might otherwise do in the scenarios that I described at funerals and such like. Was Bonnie Banks? Is that a Ravi tune, or who wrote that? Do we know? Don't pretend if you don't know. I don't mind.
No, I think it's. I don't think we know. No. Do we know?
But some of the Ravi
somebody will write in and tell you, I'm sure.
Maybe it may be. That would be nice. That would mean engagement with this thing. That would be brilliant. But I'm just wondering then if some of these kind of White Heather Club tunes, because they do have a lilt and a cadence that feels right and familiar. That's a brilliant device. I think that's a brilliant device, and I can really see how that could work very, very well. I'm sure it does in your setting. Amazing. So how could we then at Glasgow City Mission take people who have got zero church background, zero Christianese vocabulary, no clue of contemporary or the ancient sort of hymn traditions, and provide them with a vehicle for access to that kind of worship, throwing up, receiving down. Because singing in group does things for people, doesn't it? You get these community choirs that start up, and people that have never sung in company before suddenly are energized by the experience, aren't they?
Mm.
I'm thinking about how that, and we have done it at the City Mission. We did have somebody, but they moved to the south coast of England. And they used to put together a Christmas choir, and they did a very good job of it, I think. But do you think this could work with the sort of guests that we get through the door?
I mean, I think so. You know, I think that when we, I think having sincere words, you know, I think the thing that if there's an underlying principle that I think, you know, would work and I've seen does work, you know, and like I would just want to emulate, you know, if anything, you know, at Glasgow City Mission is just like, you know, you're real. You know, there's not a sense of fake. There's not a sense of we're doing an impression of someone trying to, you know, be your friend or I'm trying to speak to you as someone or, you know, just like, you know, we in Scotland are quite good at smelling insincere anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, no.
No.
No, I only want to speak to someone that is speaking to me. You know, that is with me. You know, could I be replaced by someone else?
Yeah, I think it's very Scottish that they're not into patter merchants particularly.
No.
When I'll tell you a story. When I first moved up here, the very next day, I arrived at midnight with a van full of stuff. Neighbourhood Watch was called. The next day, and they were. The next day, I go to the chippy, and in Cardonald. And as I try and find a chippy, the first thing I see is a man walking along the roadside of parked cars, urinating, walking down the road. And I think,
at the same time?
Yeah, amazing, gifted,
right?
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, okay, this I've moved here, we've committed. And then I find the chippy, I stand in line, and I go to the counter and I say, can I have 2 portions of fish and chips, please? And she looks at me, and I was trying to do that that thing where you just move to a place where they talk slightly different to you, and you're ultra self-conscious of your accent, right? And
did you try to emulate a wee Scottishness in there?
No, I didn't. I hate that.
All right.
So I say 2 portions of fish and chips. She says, in a very broad, Pennilly style, are you wanting now what do they call it? A fish supper? I said, I don't know, but I definitely want fish and chips. Are you wanting a single fish, or are you wanting a double fish and supper? So this goes like this, and she's pressing my buttons, but I'm trying to be super nice, right? But in a kind of, because I grew up in Oxford, right? So there's this kind of North Oxford way of being saccharine nice, but not meaning it at all, but it's kind of expected, so you do it. And it's a bit, well, I didn't realize how fake it was until this woman spoke to me, and I walked out of that shop. I got what I wanted, but I felt terrible. And I made a decision that what I'd done wrong was I'd not just been straight with her. I didn't need to be ultra nice. I just had to be very straight. And I had to treat her like a human being, and she would treat me like one. And from that day on, minute on, I dropped that, all that. And everything's gone perfectly swimmingly for the last 20 years, I'm glad to say. But there is something about what you said there. There is something about authenticity. I'll tell you where else authenticity comes into something. And you're supposed to be talking, I know, I'm talking too much.
No.
One of the things about authenticity is, and I say it in sermons quite a lot, is I think that there's something about the Spirit of God has given the spirit of discernment to the people at the least, at the lowest ebbs. Because when you deal with, or if you've ever been at a very low ebb, and I have, you are aware, acutely aware of when people are being a little bit fake nice to you. There's something in it for them, you know, it's not real. It don't feel like, it's not really directed at you so much, it's about their own needs. And the people that come through the door of Glasgow City Mission, if you've volunteered, if you work there and you're bringing that kind of slightly suburban attitude of I'm coming to help the worthy, they'll sniff you out and you'll get a rough ride. You'll get a rough ride.
Yeah.
But you treat them like a human being, greet them like somebody made in the image of God, like it really means that. They know when you're doing that.
Yeah.
because, really in truest sense, when we're dealing with the people at Glasgow City Mission, what comes from the heart really hits the heart. And it's not difficult then to develop rapport and relationship and draw aspects of their lives out. They want to tell you, they want to be in relationship with you, but they're so used to either being treated with derision, suspicion, or fakery. They've got a bit of an edge, but it's a survivalist edge. It's easy to get through the edge. Just be real. It's amazing. And I think that what you've just said there about the Scottish way of being, and because also Glasgow in particular, it's a deeply egalitarian place. You might have gone to Hutchie Grammar and he might be sitting on the street, but you're both Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I say that from an outsider, as an outsider looking in, and having lived here now for 20 years and doing the work I do, I really, really, really appreciate that side of the city. Yeah, I love it, in fact.
I think we see that across Scotland. We see that like sense of like, and it's not because we're anti something else. I think that is one of the misconceptions, is that like Scottish people are anti this or anti that or anti English, or something like that. I haven't sensed that in Glasgow. I grew up in Fife. Whilst there's a bit of jokery around that.
I thought you talked a bit funny.
Yeah. I've got a kind of non-regional, non-specific Scottish voice. Yeah, but I mean, it's funny, even around Glasgow, there's just like you're never really from the same place as someone else, even in Glasgow. So we live in, well, I would say Burmulloch, but like there's people that I'd speak to, just around here. I say, oh, where are you from originally? And yeah, where are you from? And they'd say, oh, I'm not from here at all. No, I'm from Milton. Yeah, which is like half a it's the kind of the end of the road. Do you can get there in about 2 minutes. They're like, I'm a foreigner here. I'm Milton. But I really don't think it matters. That's the thing. I think there's such like a crossover between just the way that like sincerity. Sincerity is so important. Like, it doesn't mean you need to be the same as, doesn't need to be, but you just need to be present, and sincere with people. Just like, I'm saying what I mean what I say. That kind of like, but not just I say whatever I think, but like what I'm going to say is sincere, and you can call me on it. Because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not just fleeting through, and, I don't, you're not the same as anyone else. And so that kind of like that very realness of what I love that that just expression, just what and just that thing of worship when we're worshiping, if the kind of test is if someone's going to look at it and go what it's just like, that's probably not great.
And I think that might be a problem for a lot of a lot of the more contemporary expressions of kind of degree educated, sort of attractive, skinny jean wearing churches, is that they feel very generic, as in they're kind of international, sort of a homogenized version of what everyone else is doing around the world all at the same time. It's an identikit version. I don't mean to disparage any in particular, but do you know what I mean? You could be in Sydney, you could be in LA, you could be in Portland, you could be in London, or you can be in Glasgow. But the distinctiveness of it is kind of not there. And I think a lot of the people that we serve, if we were in a position to bring them to a place where they wanted to be embedded in a fellowship, in a gathered body of believers, they struggle to find a home. And I think it's because where we would want them to feel at home actually feels a bit more like a hipster cafe than it does the Glasgow they know, or the Apostle they know, or the Priest Hill that they know. It doesn't look like that. It looks like some sort of Instagram aspiration rather than the community that they need to make them feel whole again,
I think that's definitely true. And I think so. I mean, I think that like, I think there's differences in, and there's always going to be, I suppose, in a church in the West End and a church in Easterhouse. And in some ways I celebrate those. That's really good. There are some places that need to be hubs for the international students, or other people like that, and I really appreciate that. And there's a kind of tension between the body of Christ as a whole, a kind of global body that we're a part of, and then the local.
Yeah.
And I suppose I would think of just like, what does it look like to worship in spirit and truth? As John 4:23, says, like, what does that truth aspect? How is it that if I'm thinking of setting up a church culture, or setting up a church culture of worship, or just having values as a church, am I doing it through the lens of, I've seen that church on YouTube, we should model everything after that, which in lieu of nothing is good,
Right.
but then just like saying, like, what would it really look like for this church, for this house group, for this whatever, gathering of Jesus people in this area look like? What would the local worship? And I think that we are really slow on this in the West.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't expect to see the same thing in, the kind of like 19th century great kind of missionary age and stuff, where they took the gospel at a place and then brought the hymn books. And that's okay.
Well, that's okay. But if you went to, let's say you went on a mission to, let's say, sub-Saharan Africa or Malaysia or any other place, anywhere you want, Jakarta, I don't care. What you would want to find, and what you would be dying to see and join in, is their cultural, specific cultural expression of how they do church and worship. You would be a bit shortchanged if you'd gone all that way and they all wore the same flannel shirts and were singing the same songs with the same light show and VTs. You'd just be denied. It's like, no, culturally denied. That's not right. And they'd be like, well, why is it not right? Everyone else is doing it. But you come to Scotland, so this little rant of mine has started because I was so overjoyed about the concept that you have of offering something that has a cultural and geographic distinctiveness that is evident and resonantly so, but yet is accessible to anybody who wants to participate. That would be something that I would want to come from sub-Saharan Africa and experience. I'd say I've been to a Scottish Christian church that does things in a really beautifully lilting, sing-songing elements of the Western Isles and of the Presbyterian and the free church traditions of the land, and the something of the whole mysticism of that part of the British Islands is in those songs that they were singing. That would be good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is, I think, like, a theological underpinning for it. If there was one, this kind of idea of ethnodoxology, of kind of like worship of the, dropping it. But this thing of like, ethno or ethnic or local or whatever, way you want to express that, kind of like local docs, or of God's kind of worship. Like, what is that? I think about the Tower of Babel, that, like, was the Tower of Babel just a curse? And then when the Pentecost came and everybody had been spread into these different languages, like when Pentecost came and they could hear the disciples speaking in their language, there was something that, like, God didn't then change everybody's language on earth to be back to one language again. Like, he still, like, said you to take the gospel to all nations, and that, like, every nation and every culture has something to bring to God, something different, and it's just saying, like, is Scotland different? Is Glasgow different from, a church in Malaysia? Like, obviously, we have a different way of saying it, with different language, and yet, like, our worship does look like very, very similar. And and that's not to, it's to kind of say, right, how do we build on that? How do we break everything down and tear it down and start again? But how do we just build on it to say, okay, maybe global church songs need to be 10% of what we sing. Like, maybe when they're 100% right now, like, it's just like, let's take the best and let's take the songs that God's blessing the world with and enjoy them with our brothers and sisters around the world. And then let's say, well, what would it look like for, our congregation is going through something just now. whatever it is, there's something that God is doing specifically there. How do we as a body write a song that would express to God what he's doing in us? And how can we do it in a language that we would speak outside the church and in the church, so we don't put on our Sunday best voice, or suit or whatever, and so then, how do we come in spirit and in truth to worship God? And I think there's something that's kind of old about that as well, in some ways, that we want to kind of sing these songs that have been sung in Scotland for many years. And so we want to kind of engage with that, and we want to kind of know that Jesus speaks Glaswegian. He understands when we come and we speak our language, and
he loves it.
He speaks it. He loves it.
Yeah.
He made it, and he made this land.
He loves it.
He's working through it.
Amazing. I'm trying to think how this can connect back to the work we do ourselves. There was something about the authenticity thing, and you were kind. You said kind words about how we do that at the City Mission around authenticity. And you referenced worship in spirit and truth. It's very difficult in the contemporary church molds and modes across the board. I'm not singling any out, but it's actually difficult for anybody to actually be fully truthful, ironically, in those settings, because they will have worn whatever the implicit cultural uniform is. They will be using the picked up and learned buzzwords and key phrases. They will know the right acts and the right preachers and the right podcasts and the right, you know what I mean? There's a whole lot of stuff going on there, and everyone's sort of bright and breezy. It's very difficult to be broken and bruised, potentially. I mean, these are stereotypes and caricatures, but I think we would all identify and understand. And so even those that are faithfully attending and are well versed in these things, if you really, really looked at the heart of people as they turned up, no one's telling you how they nearly kicked their kid's head in because they were making it difficult for the whole family to get to church on time again. So it's very difficult for people who live in a very brutal truth all the time to then be asked to come and play that game, because they just see it as very fraudulent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it smells bad.
It does smell bad. And Glasgow City Mission has this safety where you are made to know, you know deeply. You can be fully you here. It's all right. You can be you here, and that's cool. And we'll be you back, and maybe we'll reflect something of each other back to each other, and we'll learn about each other that way, and we'll grow into a community that way. And it kind of works from that point. It works from the brokenness out. It turns lead into gold. It's alchemy, rather than turning up somewhere where you're expected to be a gold pebble already, but inside you're just pure lead. But you don't tell anyone,
You play the game.
You play the game. And now that's not spirit and truth right from the beginning. So from the get-go, it's not quite working for a lot of people, Yeah,
I wonder what the kind of songs will be coming out of Glasgow City Mission. What are the things that people wish that they could sing about, or that they could wish they could express. I did a church survey a couple of years ago, kind of lots of churchgoers and ministers and things. And one of the surprising things one of the questions I asked was something like, what would you want to express in church that is not currently being expressed, or something along those lines? And the answer was lament. It came quite strongly back.
When was this survey?
2016, maybe.
Ahead of your time. Good, because there's a few books coming out on lament and rediscovering lament, and this is a theme I've noticed recently. Yeah.
And so I that was kind of coming full circle. That's one of the things that we see in the Psalms, quite strongly, that we don't see. And I suppose if we worshipped like we worshipped, if we read Psalms like we read Paul's letters, our worship would look very different in the church, I think. Our worship would show these kind of things of lament or frustration, or have mercy on me, Lord. The tender mercies of God that we sing, Lord, just there's so much sin in my life. I've just done so much wrong, and I still do stuff wrong. Would you have mercy on me? Have mercy on my soul. And I don't know if you're hearing the fireworks.
I thought it was you on your tambourine. I thought you had a foot pedal on your tambourine.
No, it's the 5th of November as we do this. So yeah,
of course.
Just the angels are agreeing. No.
Bomb Parliament.
So I just wonder, from Glasgow City Mission, I wonder what that will look like, in a year or however long, that's like, these are the kind of words that I want to sing, that whoever it is, is singing, I want to sing these.
You make me want to, and I don't know how I would implement this, but you make me curious about what it would look like if a group of our guys and girls had somebody lead them in a songwriting exercise based around a tune that they all knew. And they say, right, this is how many words are in that line, and this how many lines there are in each verse, and that's the chorus. And now you express something deep and truthful of your experience in place of those words. And I would be fascinated to see what songs we got. It would be a great exercise, wouldn't it? Because you could do the same song, but it would be however many people you'd have, that'd be that many different songs. It would be quite a cool project.
Yeah, definitely. Or just even a verse or, something else. Yeah. And I think within like our church, we have falsely equated poetry with sincerity and theology sometimes. Now, that's not a huge diss on poetry. Poetry can be great, but if something does not rhyme, big whoop. God's not going, river rhymes with dither. It's just not, so I think the smell test is so much better. I mean, if you want to make it rhyme, cool.
Rhyming's cool.
That's fine. But it's not the be all and end all. I would far rather sing a clunky song that somebody had written that was true.
Yeah.
That was like sincere. And I was singing it with them in that moment, right there, to God, together, trying to get the words in the right way and, trying to sing it. And maybe we don't lead very well or whatever, but like I think there's something very special in that. The polished is just not as important as we think it is. The great lines, the great, songwriting, cool. If someone wants to really work at it, obviously I try and do that,
Hello.
But I don't care at the end of the day. I really just want to worship with people and worship with the people that are in the room. And I think something like that would really help. And it would be so easy to do for anyone who's come into GCM and stuff.
Have you any experience of the psalm singing traditions?
So I've been to Stornoway a couple of times. My best friend lives up there and is associate minister up there and things. And so it's pretty fascinating. And I think there is something really good in that. And having kind of researched quite a lot of the traditions from it and stuff, it is really fascinating. And at the same time, it doesn't always speak to me in the same way because it's a rumpty dumpty dumpty dum, a rumpty dumpty dum, fiddly bumpy shimpy dumpy lumpy dumpy dum.
Yeah.
And so I don't have my, I've got a CH3 or something that's got all the kind of, you can just change, there's basically 12 tunes that people use. And then just, they were all in standard meter, so they would just kind of change them over and things. And so, I mean, that's really cool. It's such a useful resource, the Psalms of David, and I've enjoyed them. And
but you think there's a limit to how far you can explore that once you've broken down the mystery and the romanticism of it. Once you get down to the technicality of it, it's 12 tunes okay, cool.
Yeah, so it can be helpful. I mean, one of the ways that I really enjoyed it was a service I was in we're hearing them now. Pop.
Yeah.
It was in Stornoway High Free Church. It was, and it was this beautiful service where the reading was about Christ on the cross, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And that was the sermon, and we'd read it just before the sermon, but before that we'd sung Psalm 22.
Yeah.
And so this, I did feel like I'd sang a song that Jesus had on his heart
Yeah.
and that like on the cross, you know, at this like
Yeah. Kicks on the tune.
oh, you know, he quotes this song that is
Yeah.
a life song for him. He knows he's in, you know, and Christ expresses that like
Yeah. And nobody
hard.
present wouldn't have known the words that followed it. Wouldn't have known the cadence and where that went.
And so that was a beautiful
into Psalm 23.
Yeah.
And through into hopefulness. Amazing.
So I, you know, that's such a great setting and use for that and things, and like the Gaelic Psalm singing. You know, we played up in Stornoway. I just did. I think I just scratched my nose at the same time as you scratched your ear. That was fun.
That's probably psychological.
Is it? Yeah. So I mean, we did I think at Glasgow, not Glasgow, a green. Forgive me, it's something on the green. Anyway, it was praise on the green or something like that.
Praise on the green.
Grace on the green. That's it.
Sounds more Stornoway to me.
Yeah, and it was Stornoway Church, and it was wonderful. You know, I had this Sam singing, and I could appreciate it, and yet at the same time, I didn't have a huge connection to it.
Yeah.
I didn't know the words that they were singing.
Yeah.
I was thankful for it, and I thought that's really cool. That is a brilliant expression, you know, for you. But you know, I don't know what it is, you know, so I don't think the Holy Grail, you know, of like worship is like
no.
Let's sing those, you know, or
no.
something.
I think
let's sing something else. Let's see what's the one that's here.
Yeah, again, so as an outsider looking in, or rather embedded, I can see how, because my dad's a very keen folk player, folk musician, and so I was raised around folk festivals and the English folk music traditions, and then the folk rock scene and stuff like this. So I have this connection to folk music, which I think is really the soul music of the land, you know.
Yeah.
And I can see and hear in country music, in bluegrass, you can hear the European roots of the music, you know.
Yeah.
And so just as a part of the recipe, really, for the Scottish sound that gives it a resonance and a depth that strikes a deep chord, it's just one of the ingredients of these sort of local traditions that exist. There's probably traditional fife fishermen's tunes, or there's certainly be East Coast Aberdeen herring girl songs. Do you know what I mean? There's the Ayrshire tradition of Burns, and then you've got the Weaver poets of Paisley, but together they would bring together something that was recognizably Scottish and would travel well within its own boundary of Scotland, but also would travel very well beyond its own boundary.
I like if it was to be a metaphor to try and hang things on, you know, I like the idea that there's a river of worship that is going towards the King, and that every kind of hill and valley, you know, kind of leads down into this river, you know, that goes to worship God. But there's a hill that's Scotland's.
Yeah.
There's different areas on that hill, but where the water falls, you know,
tributaries, the waterfalls,
they come together and then they go into this stream. And there's something that is like unique to wherever you are in Scotland. You know, there's something that's unique to there, that like God made every inch of that land. You know, he made it. It's made in and through Christ, and the culture is as well. There are redeemable and there are glorious parts of those culture. You know, and there are aspects of God that are like more a part of some parts of his character that are expressed there than others. You know, we might have a sincerity of Scotland which isn't seen in Oxford. You know, but there are things in Oxford that are parts of in the culture that are parts of God's character. We're made in his image, that are to express something of there. And I think there's something where we kind of play to our strengths where we are, but also we get to contribute to the world narrative, and we get to contribute to songs of the world. And so a song we write here might only ever be sung in Glasgow City Mission, the one you write, or it might be taken further, but it's not better because it's further.
No,
you know, it's for there, you know. And so
But there's a myth there, isn't there, that we've all bought into, which is unless you've kind of hit 1 million tweets or whatever downloads, it's not really happened. But of course it's happened, as long as it's done in spirit and truth. It really doesn't matter. And thank you for the opportunity, by the way, which I missed, to balance my critique of the Oxford insincerity. I'm sure there are virtues, of course there are.
Yes, I was gonna. No, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah,
leave it there. We did good.
Oxford's great. Yeah.
I appreciate it. You give me a lifeline there. Otherwise, I could have had my dad or someone listen to this and gone, "Hold on, son."
Hey.
Yeah. Right. Well, look. I think we're going to wrap it up now. It's we've probably gotten a good hour's worth out of this chat. I think we could probably go again, and maybe we will, God willing, if you're up for it. And or if there's anything ever that you think, well, we didn't talk about this, or I'd like to talk about that, or just explore any ideas just in the form of a chit chat, then I'd be more than happy to do so. It's been a very great pleasure to see your face and to chat with you.
Oh, thanks. It's been great fun. Yeah, happy to anytime. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what that might look like from Glasgow City Mission. Just like,
I see. I've got a task. What you mean? I've actually got to do that thing that I mentioned.
Do you know? I think you should.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you should. I think there's huge merit in just being like, this is something we own. You know, this is we. You know, we as a collective, like, this is not. And I think there's also like something about the common. You know, there's like we in Glasgow like the egalitarian, you know, as you're saying, like we like the, not you bring a song and we say yes to it, you know, but we say, okay, I'm a part of this. Yeah, we kind of made this together, and I think you should do it.
Sure. Well, I'll find someone who's good at this stuff who will do it. Let's see. Yeah. Someone who will want to do it when they hear how much passion we spoke with. They're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna press stop on the record and